November 7th, 2023 to order. If you're able, please rise and join us with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has council had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes of October 17th? If so, I'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the set agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented. I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, carried. Kindness Appreciation Week proclamation. Whereas the City of Becker has established Kindness Appreciation Week to be held from November 6th to the 10th in the year 2023, and whereas the City of Becker, along with other community entities, believe in working jointly to create an ideal community to work, live, go to school, and raise a family. And whereas kindness is an attribute that grows within all people, and nurturing kindness within ourselves and modeling kindness to others provides an opportunity to guide and inspire an entire community. And whereas the involved parties believe passionately that happiness is one of the keys to a healthy community, and the involved parties believe it is important to emphasize and promote internal kindness to increase happiness and to create an inclusive, respectful community where all feel welcome. Now therefore it be resolved that I, Tracy Bertram, serving as Mayor of Becker, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim November 6th through the 10th, 2023 as Kindness Appreciation, where kindness will be emphasized and recognized across the Becker community. Be it therefore that the city hereby promotes the following activities to support kindness in the Becker community and encourages community members to participate in one or all of the events. Rewarding kindness by reporting acts of kindness. And the Becker Police Department and Bill's Family Foods is doing a donut drive-through, and that is taking place on Thursday. So tomorrow, Wednesday, tomorrow. Whew. Maybe it'll be 2 days. You never know.
2 days of donuts.
All right. Are there any guests for the open forum? Seeing none, I'm going to invite Chief Balloon to the podium for the Merit Award of Officer Voigt.
I suspect we're not going to have any donuts left after tomorrow. But if we did, yes, we will certainly carry that into Thursday. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight, and to our friends and relatives and stuff like that are here. Again, the opportunity tonight to recognize an outstanding achievement by one of our police officers. Well, one is being recognized tonight. It's, I think, important for all of us to remember and acknowledge that the last several years have been somewhat difficult for law enforcement. Some would say deserved, maybe so, but out of that, there are still many instances of police officers not backing down and fulfilling the oath to their communities. The decisions that they make each day is hard. Do it one way and public opinion will drive a bus to disaster. Do it another way and it's, well, that's just the officer doing their job, not a big deal. But I do feel it's extremely important as a police chief and as a citizen of Becker that we honor and recognize the jobs of our police officers and what they face today. You know, heck, in the last week, our officers have confiscated 4 weapons, resulting in charges from felon in possession of a handgun to second-degree assault. Some officers play huge parts in these cases, while others play minor roles. But it is important for us to recognize the collective teamwork that goes into these cases and the difficult decisions that are made by each of these officers. So tonight we do recognize Preston Voigt for his actions on June 20th, 2023. So here are the details of the incident, which I think you two will find extraordinary and worthy of recognition and achievement. I'm going to have you stand up and face everybody this way, just to make it a little awkward for you. All right, so on June 20th, 2023, at approximately 1:47 hours, Officer Voigt was asked by the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office to assist on a call in the 11,000 block of 165th Avenue. The caller had stated that an assault had occurred at this location and that his son was trying to kill him and his daughter. In addition, the caller also advised that his son would kill police officers should they show up. Officers from the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office and Big Lake Police Department were already on scene when Officer Voigt arrived to assist. Officer Voigt was obtaining details when he heard another officer yell that the male suspect was approaching the area on a bicycle at a high rate of speed. So try and picture that. But the suspect veered off the roadway and rammed directly into another male at the scene, causing him to fall over. The suspect fell off his bike as well and was tased by one of the other officers nearby. The suspect rolled on the ground and appeared to have dislodged the taser probes. Officer Voigt running to the area to assist the other officers when the male suspect then got up off the ground and started to run at Officer Voigt. Officer Voigt noticed the male suspect had a knife in his hand. Officer Voigt believed the male suspect intended to stab or injure him and responded by tasing the suspect twice. The suspect was within 1 to 2 feet of Officer Voigt when the taser was deployed. Officer Voigt drew his weapon and ordered the male suspect to drop the knife. Officer Voigt then pushed the suspect to the ground, where he and other officers were able to assist in handcuffing and arresting the subject. Officer Voigt then assisted with medical attention of the male who had been hit by the bicycle. Eventually, an ambulance arrived on the scene, and then in addition, Officer Voigt and other officers eventually put the male suspect into the RAP device, which is a restraint device, to ensure that he and officers remained safe. He was eventually transported from the scene and booked in for his crimes at the Sherburne County Jail. Officer Voigt is to be commended for his quick and decisive actions during this call. Officer Voigt's decision to use a taser to subdue the suspect is commendable, considering he would have been justified in using his duty weapon, which obviously would have led to a different outcome, as we know. In addition, Officer Voigt displayed an incredible command presence during and after the call, in which he assisted and directed other officers with the tasks that needed to be accomplished. Officer Voigt is hereby awarded the Meritorious Service Award for his actions on this call, which further demonstrates his professionalism, training, and years of experience. Thank you, Preston, for a job well done. And with that, as we typically do, I'm going to take everybody with me here. We will retire to the police department, so thank you again for the opportunity to do this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
All right, we will move into committee reports. Fire Board.
Fire Board, we met on October 23rd. Everything's looking great over there. We did, our payment of the bills and payroll. Calls were down to 17, so that's pretty low for the month. They were also talking about how when they had their open house, it was a huge success. And they just want to thank all the people that donated their time and just gifts for drawings and food that was donated. So it was a good thing. So that's about it.
All right. Golf Committee.
Oh, okay. Golf Committee. Okay, so we met actually on Halloween. Everything's going great there. It's kind of neat to see the year end as far as the actual golf course, because this year was the latest start and the earliest close we've had in 5 years. So if that makes sense. So last year we closed on the 22nd of November, and this year we closed on the 27th of October. And yet we were still up over 1,000 rounds of golf. So that's pretty good. The next thing we were just gonna discuss is kind of just keep your eye out. There's going to be turkey bingo on the 18th. So yeah, that's about it. Can you think of anything else?
Just the water,
The water feature restorations,
which is,
ongoing.
yeah, in works.
Yes.
All right. How about police?
Police, so we met, last Friday, bright and early, 7 AM. We had a updating on staffing, which there are no changes. We are now with a full staff right now, which is good, and not every department can say that. We had an update on, the Oracle, which is the, records management system that the county is, the sheriff's department is moving to. No changes, that one is still on hold. There's some, issues they are, working through. So until they can get those worked out, that'll still be on hold. which of course will still stick with the one we have. We just talked briefly, there's an upcoming, there'll be a squad car request, for this coming year for the CIP. There was not one for 2023, but, there will be one for 2024. It's gonna be a little bit, it's gonna be later, cause there's some model changes again, so if you remember that a few years ago when that happened, that's gonna happen again here, so between that and then by the time it, the backlog gets through, it could be almost 2025 till we actually see the car, unfortunately, so, it might actually be a 2025 model car, so. We talked about, training, there's some upcoming, I don't know if it happened by now yet, but, there's some, training, the police department's gonna be doing, performing some training with each, individual department in the departments, related to, just stuff that their department may see, so if it's public works, if somebody, is very angry about their water bill or something showed up, how would we handle that? Of course, better to practice that rather than just experience it for the first time when it's live, so. They'll be doing that with each individual department separately. We talked about statistics, slightly up from last year, and that's about it.
All right. How about Planning Commission?
Right in the planning commission. We met the day before Halloween. Let's see, we had a couple items which are on our agenda for tonight. The Excel Energy Register Land Survey, and then the Chapter 11 ordinances. No surprise there on Chapter 11. We also had another, Mike Lamb, what is the consultant that's working, partially working with us on the zoning code update, was here, and they've been, so we went over some more items, kind of in detail there, and we'll look to see probably, I think it was early next, just like January, February-ish, I think was the next, they're gonna be coming to council, kind of give us where we're at so far, so that was something we had requested, is that they, come and talk to us more in smaller pieces and stuff, so it's not just one big, here you go, or here's the entire code book in September, go have fun. So they're looking to do their first one, probably, I think it's like January, February. They're gonna come probably talk to us at an exec session, so.
Okay. All right, Personnel Committee, we met this morning. We took a look at two different policies that we provided feedback on, and then hopefully those will come back in December for council review. Any other committees? No? All right. Public hearing, partial vacate of University Avenue Southeast, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. If you want, you can open the public hearing too. So.
Okay, we will go ahead and open the public hearing at 5:13.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. So before you tonight, we have a vacation of University Avenue Southeast. As you recall, back at the October 17th meeting, Council voted on a approval to call for vacation of the entire road, just to leave the option open. At this point, we believe, based on what's currently in the area, leaving access to a portion of it would be sufficient, but vacating the rest that's on this parcel that you'll see in the registered land survey that's being split off, vacating that portion that exists on that parcel is really sufficient. There's really no public need for it. It previously served University of Minnesota and then a farm at the end, so there really is no need. We did check with the utility companies in the area. Excel didn't have any in there. Midco didn't have any that was close. Windstream did have a copper line that's no longer used, that's within the right of way, but they weren't against the vacation. They just make the caveat that the owner of the property, whenever they do develop, would be responsible for vacating that, and they won't have any financial ability to help them with that. So that's the only thing that was there. It's a really old line that used to feed the greenhouse. So with that, we are seeking for a motion and a second approving resolution 23-108 to vacate a portion of the road known as University Avenue Southeast, and that's legally described in the resolution.
All right. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in regards to the vacate of University Avenue? If not, I'll ask council for a motion to close the.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried.
Make a motion to approve resolution 23-108, vacating a portion of the public road known as University Avenue Southeast.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board committee and consultant reports. Registered land survey, Excel Energy's property. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. This related to the last one. Excel Energy has approached about subdividing a piece of this big 470-something acre parcel that you see in the figure in the RCA. The remaining, there will be 2 tracks, one of which will be reserved by Excel for a lot of the utilities, the rail, things of that nature. The other portion is part of that sale to a different company that you will know as Elk River Technologies. That's gone through the PUC. So this will take care of that. One of the things I will point out, we've never done a registered land survey since I've been here. And this is a little bit unique. It follows the same process as a plat. So a public hearing was held at the Planning Commission. We really received no public comments on the split. Statute requires that it follows the same review process. So Planning Commission approval comes to you for your review and approval as well. The original intent was to do it as a meets and bounds split. The county and under statute actually required them to do a full registered land survey since the lands were recorded as Torrens. Planning Commission again did review it, no comments. There were a couple of minor adjustments to the conditions that were actually requested by the applicant as well as Planning Commission, and they made some sense. So we did make those adjustments from Planning Commission as well, relating to just some of the utility pieces and tree preservation, just more of only along the edge would that take place. I'll point that out. And really, it's just to preserve bigger trees on the edge of the property. Since this is a heavily wooded lot, when it gets developed, you don't need all the ones in tier, but it's more about the edges adjacent to the road. All the other typical things that we see on plats are in those resolutions with a couple of adjustments to differ between Tract A, since it'll be reserved as a utility, or Tract B and Tract A. So with that, we are seeking for a motion in a second, adopting Resolution 23-112 for the preliminary registered land survey, and motion in a second for 23-113 approving the registered land survey. And I'll answer any questions.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 23-112, approving the preliminary registered land survey for Excel Energy.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 23-113, approving the registered land survey for Excel Energy.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chapter 11 zoning code edits. Mr. Sanders.
So we've gone, although we're going through the process of amending the code in general, there are some more timely edits that we feel are necessary related to renaming of the industrial zoning. So residentially, they have a name, but they're typically R1, R2, R3. Industrial have specific names and like an abbreviation like IGEN or IPG. One of the resulting mitigation strategies that came out of the Excel Energy City of Becker Alternative Urban Area-Wide Review that was adopted earlier this year was that we update the zoning to be more in line with what that came out with. So the scenarios that were being developed, renaming of those districts to be more inclusive of those uses is really the predominant reason that we're approaching you to change the titling. And it's really just the titling. It will go from these to I1, I2, I3, which is a little more encompassing. That way also when people come in, even though these districts allow for a lot more than power generation or general, it's more encompassing of all the uses that we allow within these zoning districts. So it'll help with a lot of those, make it more marketable for those areas, and then again encompass the uses that are intended. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on that at the October 30th meeting. Approval of the ordinance changes. There's a lot in there, but really the ordinance is really just every single place where we had those iGen, IPG, or iPark, we had to change those and update them. So with that, we're seeking for a motion to second approving ordinance 276 second series to amend those sections in code, and then approving the 276 second series summary for publication. With that, I'll answer any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 276 second series, revising sections multiple of chapter 11, changing the name of the industrial zoning districts.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 276 second series summary for publication purposes.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? With none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
2023 third quarter financials, Mr. Ebensteiner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here just to give Jacob a quick break before his next topic. So I'm here to present just a quick snapshot of third quarter financials. We did discuss, or at least Budget and Finance had reviewed last month. So just a reminder, we are 9 months through the year, so 75% of the year has elapsed. On the general fund side, I'll just jump right in. Property tax revenues are at 55%, so on track. The remaining 50% will be received in November, December. And then on the revenue side, intergovernmental revenues in the general fund are exceeding budget expectations at $225,000. Police aid is the biggest driver, and a lot of times we don't know what that final number will be until the subsequent year. So revenues are strong overall, and licensing revenue and other revenues from interest are also coming in strong throughout the year here, which is great to see. General fund expenditures as aggregated are favorable at 69%. A reminder there, the outlier is since we did bring building inspection in-house, so we are trending ahead of budget expectations there, but the building permit revenues are coming in strong to compensate for those additional expenditures there. EDA fund, directly tied to property tax revenue, so the first payment of the 50% received in July, received the remainder in November, December, and then also interest earnings have been strong there, so we are at 56% on the revenue side through 75% of the year. And then on the expenditure side, we're at 51% at 75% through the year. So expenditures looking great as well. Community center fund, that does have the tax levy that does come in. So tax revenues at 50% received currently, and then we'll receive the additional 50% here in November, December. And user fees in the community center fund are looking great. We're at 89% of budget. And really reflects that rebound and working towards both members and membership. So seeing some strong numbers there, almost pre-pandemic numbers where we're at now. And on the budget and finance side, we do look at those every other month just to keep our eyes peeled. And Bart usually gives us an update of where things are trending. On the expenditure side, we are at 79% through September. A little bit quicker than the 75%, but we do have some front-loaded expenditures with Freedom Days occurring earlier in the year. So kind of those one-time expenditures that we won't see through the remainder. So community center fund looking good. Golf fund revenues, as a reminder, no property tax levy this year on the operation side. So golf revenues are 109%. Through September on the operations side, and 85% of budget on the food and beverage side. Expenditures for golf reflect 84% of budget through September. And then golf is returning positive income and cash flow from both operations and food and beverage for the first 3 quarters of the year. So really good operations there, and especially as Becky had mentioned, with that shorter window of duration, but still more rounds and just a lot of activity going on up there. So great to see. The water fund, both water and wastewater, very consistent with what we normally see on through the third quarter. Water fund expenses are at 55% of total year budget, so below there. On the domestic wastewater side, very similar on volume, tends to be more consistent, so we're at 79% of revenue through September, which is on track. We do have some capital planned for the remainder of the year. Some of that may flow over into 2024 as we get some of those projects moving. And then industrial wastewater revenues and expenditures are both tracking as expected. The fire fund, that's a custodial fund, as a reminder. Revenues are as expected at 56% through September, and expenditures at 49%. And real minimal capital expenditures. I know even as we talked, as Rick had touched on, I think they had planned on maybe purchasing a new vehicle, but just the ability to receive those, so they've kind of held off on some of those capital purchases as well. So citywide, revenues at 76% through September, and then expenditures at 66%, so both looking good. And then on the capital project financing, just a quick update. You know, we kept a close eye on where we are with cash flow with some of those big projects. Currently, we aren't expecting to need any of those, and as some of these projects wrap up, we'll just continue to monitor cash flow as we roll into 2024. So with that, I can take any questions. No action on this item, but thank you for your time.
Yeah, just tip of the cap to staff on monitoring that. I know it's been a very ongoing process to see if we're gonna have to do short-term borrowing there to float us through there. And I know there's a lot of work for staff, so tip of the cap to that.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Yeah, thanks, Lori, and even Phil on the engineering side. Just a lot of communication and collaboration on timing of payments and a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So appreciate that.
All right, administrator and staff reports. Annexation of Xcel Energy properties. Welcome back, Mr. Sanders.
What's your name again?
Right?
Like
It's
a
the
bad penny.
Sanders Show.
Yeah.
Come on down.
No pictures, please. So before you tonight, we have an annexation for Xcel Energy. They petitioned to annex 6 parcels, which are shown in the figure in the request for council action. The total is about 295 acres. The reason they're petitioning annex is for site readiness and business attraction efforts. They did notify the township probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so they did inform the township of this, that they were intending to annex the properties. We also notified this past week that we did receive the petition for the annexation and then be on this meeting tonight, so the council's aware of the annexation coming in. Per the agreement, there's no public hearing for this. That was held a long time ago when the annexation, orderly annexation agreement went into play and did the whole area. So it's not required at this time. If approved by council, the town board would review the annexation at their November 20th meeting. So with that, we are seeking for a motion and a second adopting resolution 23-115, which is a joint resolution between Becker Township and the city of Becker for the orderly annexation of 295 acres. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sanders?
No.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 23-115, joint resolution between Becker Township and the city of Becker, matter of orderly annexation of the described property.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Supplemental letter agreement with SCH for the 2024 bituminous street improvements, Mr. Knutson. Again, a nice long entry for you.
Park in the back there, so I need a little time, so.
Got a head start though.
I did make an assumption that you were gonna call me without interruption, so thank you for that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you tonight, we do have the supplemental letter agreement with SCH as proposed for our 2024 street improvement projects. As you recall, this work is outside of the scope of our services agreement with SCH. And what we've done the last 2 years, this is the second year that we've gotten this position where we're coming to you right now, so we can get in front of next year's projects. It put us in a really favorable bidding position for this year's work, and worked out really well all in all. So that's why we're here again in front of you. If you recall in our budgets, we did break down some of our CIP on the streets in general, so we pulled some of that money a year ahead of time, so we're not spending outside of our budget that you've already approved. So there is funding in place for this. The work that we're looking at doing is reconstruction and pavement for a variety of streets. I'll go through them in not kind of a random order, but Diane Avenue, Jenkins Drive, Warren Avenue, Monroe Drive, Monroe Court, Forest Drive, Carroll Drive from Abbey to Carroll Court, Brenda Boulevard from Edgewood Street to Joseph Avenue, Johnson Street, 13th Avenue, Jefferson Street, Lobelia Street, 41st Avenue, and 153rd Avenue from 41st, the recent pavement with the joint project. So the one thing that you'll notice in this, we've tried to be geographically as we can, but as we've got caught up on some of our street projects because of the bonding, we went through and reevaluated our worst streets. And there are a few pockets, but it has placed us throughout the community a little bit more next year than we have been in years past. But instead of targeting a certain area, say Autumn Ridge or all of Nature's Edge, some of those interior roads aren't as bad as some of the other perimeter roads in those other developments. So we thought we'd break it apart, but still keep it somewhat manageable and keep the scope intact so we don't have contractors running all over the place in the city. So with that as well, we do have 2 alternates that would be proposed in the project. Alternate A is something that we're working on along 3rd Street. We've got parking issues over at Kobinger that have existed for quite some time for our park and the ball fields over there. So what we're trying to do is get in front of that and run some proposals with the school. So we've done some preliminary design work on that. We would like to get into a little bit more design build portion on that. This would only be executed, Greg is working with the school on the cost portion of that to put that in front of them and work out some details there should the project come in favorably on bid. But it wouldn't be something that we would be looking to absorb, but to work with the school district on, because to be correct on it, they don't want to address the parking, but it's a huge need and we know it's impacting our park. So we want to try and address it, put a solution in front of them that they can react to from a financial standpoint and a sharing concept with that. So that's why we placed it as an alternate instead of a part of the base bid. So there'll be a lot of details coming on that. It could be something that we see for a year or 2 down the road, depending on how they position themselves or want to act on that. Alternate B is for 2 parking lot improvements for Kobinger Park and Pleasant Valley Park, as those parking lots are in pretty tough shape. We need to look at resurfacing them as well. So with that, like I did mention, the CIP, we've got money covered there. We actually have more money than is called out in this. This SLA calls for design phase engineering. The topo work on this as well. We did not get into any of the construction phase. Should we move forward to accepting bids, we'll get into that at that time. And that would come out of 2024's budget for that this project. So with that, I can stand for questions, or I'd look for a motion to approve Resolution 23114.
Make a motion, we approve resolution 23114, approving supplemental letter of agreement with SEH.
One second.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Change order number 2 for project 3. Mr. Knutson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. None of us like to hear the word change order, so I bring this to you reluctantly, but the end result is good. What we've done is we've had a few change orders, a few items on the change order that we're bringing under one lump sum together. They were relatively minor, but the details of the change order on project 3 call out replacing a 16-inch by 12-inch T with a 16-inch by 16-inch T and a 16-inch by 12-inch reducer. It was necessary to prevent any artificial high points within the pump station force main piping. The second item was a change of hardware within the valve vault to make piping compatible with city equipment. This was done to facilitate a quicker connection to standard equipment that is currently used by city staff. We had to modify the rebar in the wet well wall. The rebar alignment needed to be modified to compensate conflicts related to rebar dimensions. And reduction of coating thickness from 125 mils to 80 mils. The contractor was able to reduce coating thickness at the pump station walls while retaining the amount of protection necessary. So this was basically how it was bid in the project. They were exceeding the standards that were there. So that's why we're not getting an inferior project anyway on there. So these were kind of vocalized and talked through, knowing that the last one was resulted in a pretty decent credit, but it brought all of these together to a credit of $807 for the overall change order. So that's why we held these and clumped them all together to bring them to you one time instead of bringing 4 things independently. But with that, I can stand for any other questions that you may have.
You can bring those kind of change orders anytime you want.
Yes.
Yeah, you
a
don't
good
have
one.
to hang on to them. You can just bring them in every meeting.
Put you in chapter 11 updates on there for every meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 with R.L. Larson Excavating for the 2023 Business Park Pump Station Improvements.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Approve assessment agreement with Elk River Technologies and Northern States Power. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Bertram, City Council members, on August 15th, the city approved an assessment agreement with Xcel Energy for the utility work that's being done on the buffer property around Sherco. And there was a clause in that agreement that upon sale of any of the parcels, the assessment was due and payable immediately. There is also another clause that says the utilities have to be available and functioning, and they are not yet. They are anticipated to be next June. And so Xcel appears to be close to closing on a sale of the property, and it was the one with the vacated easement today. That's the parcel. And Elk River Technologies is willing to assume the assessment payment, which will be made approximately at the same time, June of next year. And so as part of that, the attorneys between Xcel and Elk River Technologies drafted this agreement because the agreement is originally between Xcel and the city. The city also needs to be a party to the agreement, so the city attorney has reviewed it. It is in the same terms as the original agreement, except it is just with Elk River Technologies. And so with that, I will answer any questions. We're just requesting the council adopt resolution 23-109 approving the assessment agreement with both parties.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 23-109, approving the assessment agreement with Elk River Technologies and Northern States Power.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Community Energy Transition Grant Program. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Bertram, City Council members, during the last legislative session, the Community Energy Transition Grant Program was funded to the tune of $5 million for this go-around, and then next fiscal year, another $5 million. So cities that meet the definition, which there are only a few, are able to apply. They just rolled the program out in October. I've been working with the engineers to get some estimates on possible projects, and didn't have them in time for what I needed for tonight's meeting, so we'll talk about during the exec session. But the two projects we will be discussing are utility extensions along Sherburne Avenue South, or utility and road extensions on Luann Drive. And so the resolution that you have here is written in a way that either project we will submit for whatever project the council provides direction on. And so with that, the actual language of the resolution comes right from the grant documents. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 23-110, approving application for a community energy transition grant.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Ordinance amending city code related to sale of products containing THC. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Bertram, city council members, last October, the city approved a ordinance related to the sale of THC infused products. Since then, the legislature has passed a more broad cannabis ordinance. However, the city still retains its zoning rights, even under the new law. We had a request from G. Will Liquors that they have the ability to sell. Right now, they are prohibited, as anyone would be, from 500 feet, sale within 500 feet of a school. The city's goal in passing the ordinance, I think has repeatedly been said, that it is to limit the use of these products to people who are not eligible to purchase them. And G. Will points out, and rightly so, and staff would concur, that they are already limiting entrance into their building by being an intoxicated liquor establishment, and that's how they are licensed. And so they're requesting if the city could amend the code that it would allow the sale of THC edibles, that 500-foot restriction would not apply to so licensed establishments. If they choose to sell and the council amends the ordinance, they still would have to come in and apply for a THC license to sell. It would not be part of their liquor license. And so, staff requests adopting ordinance 275, which will revise the code and lift that restrictions only for intoxicating liquor license establishments, and then adopting ordinance 275, the series summary, for publication purposes. And with that, I will stand for questions.
So by that, we mean establishments where you have to be at least 21 to be in there, so.
Correct.
If you were a restaurant that allowed people of all ages in there, that would not, this would.
Or a convenience store, they still would be, the 500 feet foot distance would apply. As would Bill's Grocery, if they were eligible to be licensed, they would not be able to be.
Yep. Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 275, second series, revising section 6.28 of chapter 6 of the city of Becker Code.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 275, second series summary for publication purposes.
Second that as well.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Mr. LaRue, consent agenda.
Mayor Bertram, city council members, items for consideration on tonight's consent agenda include approving the hiring and termination report for community development in the Becker Community Center. Adopt resolution 23-111, approving easement settlement for sanitary sewer force main. Number 3, approve the updated city township shared road agreement. Number 4, approve partial pay request number 5 in the amount of $775,857.51 to R.L. Larson Excavating for the 2023 Business Park Pump Station Improvement Project. And number 5, approve partial pay request number 4 in the amount of $680,183.87 to Latour Construction for the County Road 53 to Edgewood Water Main Improvement Project. And I will stand for any questions.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Anniversary announcements for the month of November. Jason Scharfenkamp, our golf course superintendent, is celebrating 8 years with us. And Chris Lisson, our public works and park assistant director, is also celebrating 8 years with us. So congratulations. Yes.
Come take a bow.
Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Did I hear correctly that Janet Betcher passed away?
Yes, last week.
Who was a former,
Food shelf.
yeah.
Yep.
And city clerk.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's not for the betterment of the city, but I just wanted to verify that.
Knowledge.
Anything else for the betterment of Becker?
Yeah, I know.
All right. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
A second.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:45 PM.